You know what absolutely grinds my gears? WWE had the audacity to bring back Dean Ambrose after 6 years and waste it on a random Monday night. No build-up, no hype videos, no WrestleMania moment, just boom, he's back, and corporate WWE thinks we should just eat it up like good little fans. But here's the thing they don't want you to know, this return was botched from the second Ambrose's music hit, and I'm about to expose exactly why WWE management should be ashamed of themselves for fumbling what could have been the biggest comeback of the decade. September 29, 2025 will go down as one of the most controversial nights in WWE history, and if you're not absolutely furious about how this was handled, then you haven't been paying attention. Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley, the Lunatic Fringe himself, returned to WWE programming and immediately targeted Seth Rollins in what should have been a 5-star moment but instead left the WWE universe divided, confused, and frankly, betrayed by Triple H's booking decisions. Let me paint you the picture of this absolute circus. Seth Rollins is in the ring cutting a promo about his upcoming title aspirations when suddenly the lights cut out. Now, we've seen this 1,000 times, right? But when that familiar music hit, that gritty, rebellious theme we haven't heard since 2019, the arena erupted. Fans were losing their minds, grown men were crying, and for a brief moment, it felt like WWE finally understood what we wanted. But hold on, because this is where it gets infuriating. Ambrose storms down that ramp looking like he never left, leather jacket, that unhinged look in his eyes, and the crowd is going nuclear. He slides into the ring, and before Rollins can even process what's happening, Ambrose hits him with dirty deeds right in the center of that ring. 1, 2, 3 moves, vintage Ambrose. The place is absolutely unglued. Commentary is screaming, the crowd is chanting welcome back, and you'd think this was perfect, right? Wrong. Here's where WWE's incompetence shines through like a spotlight on a botched dive. Bron Breakker, yes, Bron Breakker of all people, comes running down to make the save for Seth Rollins. Now, somebody explain to me why the alpha male of WWE, the guy who's been positioned as an unstoppable force, is playing bodyguard to Seth freaking Rollins. Make it make sense. This is the same Bron Breakker who's been destroying everyone in his path, and now he's Seth's personal security. The booking here is more backwards than a referee's count. What happens next is where this whole segment goes from questionable to absolutely insane. Ambrose and Breakker start brawling, and I'm not gonna lie, the action was stiff. These two were throwing hands like they had a legitimate beef. Breakker hits a massive spear that would have ended most men's careers, but Ambrose, because he's the Lunatic Fringe, pops right back up and hits a rebound lariat that sends Breakker over the top rope. The crowd is split now, half chanting for Ambrose, half for Breakker, and it's absolute chaos. But here's the million-dollar question that nobody in WWE management seems to want to answer. Why is Dean Ambrose back? What's his motivation? Why attack Seth Rollins specifically? And why on God's green earth is this happening on a random September Monday and not at a pay-per-view where it would have drawn 1 million buys? Creative has given us zero explanation, and that's not edgy storytelling, that's lazy storytelling. Let me break down the highlights because there were some genuinely incredible moments buried under this booking disaster. The initial stare down between Ambrose and Rollins before the attack was absolutely electric. You could feel the years of history, the Shield Brotherhood, the betrayals, all of it hanging in the air like tension you could cut with a knife. Rollins' face went from confusion to recognition to absolute terror in about 3 seconds, and give credit where it's due, Seth sold that moment like his career depended on it. The dirty deeds that followed was executed perfectly. None of that choreographed, waiting for your opponent nonsense we see too often nowadays. Ambrose grabbed Seth, hooked him, and planted him with the kind of urgency that made it feel real. That's the difference between a veteran who understands psychology and the green rookies who think wrestling is just hitting moves. Ambrose gets it. He's always gotten it. Now let's talk about Bron Breakker's involvement because this is where my blood starts boiling. Breakker hits the ring at approximately 2 minutes and 37 seconds into the segment. Yes, I timed it because I'm that invested in exposing this disaster. He comes in hot with clotheslines for Ambrose, showcasing that freakish strength we've all come to expect. The man is a beast, no question about it, but the storytelling here makes no sense. Think about this logically. Bron Breakker has been feuding with everyone from Intercontinental Champion contenders to main event players. He's not aligned with Seth Rollins. They've never shown any indication of being allies. So why is he suddenly Captain Save Seth? The only logical explanation is that WWE had no idea what else to do with Breakker on this show, so they threw him into this segment hoping we wouldn't notice the lack of narrative cohesion. Well, guess what? We noticed. The brawl between Ambrose and Breakker, though, chef's kiss. These two beat the absolute hell out of each other. Ambrose hit Breakker with a suicide dive through the ropes that sent both men crashing into the barricade. The sound alone was sickening. Then Breakker, showing why he's the future of this company, catches Ambrose on another dive attempt and delivers a devastating power slam on the outside. The thud echoed through the arena. This is the kind of hard-hitting action that made Attitude Era fans fall in love with wrestling. Back in the ring, things got even more intense. Ambrose is selling that power slam like his spine is made of shattered glass, but then, in true Lunatic fringe fashion, he starts laughing. That unhinged, psychotic laugh that reminds us why Dean Ambrose was one of the most captivating characters WWE ever created. He's rolling on the mat, laughing through the pain, and Breakker looks genuinely disturbed. That's character work, people. That's what separates the legends from the forgettable mid-carders. Here's a question for you guys watching. Do you think Dean Ambrose's return should have been saved for a bigger moment, or was the surprise factor worth the random timing? Drop your answers in the comments because I genuinely want to know if I'm alone in thinking WWE fumbled this harder than a rookie with butterfingers. Seth Rollins, to his credit, recovered enough to get back in the fight. The three-way brawl that followed was absolutely bonkers. Rollins hits a superkick on Ambrose, Breakker spears Rollins, Ambrose hits dirty deeds on Breakker. It's like a tornado of finishers and chaos. Security and referees flood the ring trying to separate everyone, but these three keep breaking free and going after each other. That's how you create must-see TV. But, and there's always a but with WWE, the segment ends with all three men being pulled apart. No clear winner, no decisive moment, just chaos for chaos's sake. Now, some of you might say that's good because it leaves us wanting more. But let me counter that. What are we wanting more of exactly? We don't know why Ambrose is back. We don't know why he attacked Seth. We don't know why Breakker got involved. It's not creating intrigue, it's creating confusion. Let's analyze the implications of this return. Dean Ambrose left WWE in 2019 on terrible terms. The man was so fed up with creative, with the PG product, with the corporate restrictions that he walked away from millions of dollars. He went to AEW, became Jon Moxley, became a world champion, became arguably the biggest star in that company. So for him to return to WWE in 2025 means something significant must have changed. Either the money was too good to refuse, or Triple H promised him creative freedom that Vince never would have. Either way, this return should have been treated like the second coming. Instead, we get a random Monday night attack with no build-up, no vignettes, no social media teases, nothing. Compare this to Centimeter Punk's return to wrestling. Whether it was his AEW debut or his rumored WWE comeback, there was buzz, there was anticipation, there were weeks of speculation. Dean Ambrose deserved that same treatment. He's a former WWE champion, a Shield member, a legend in his own right. But WWE treated his return like a mid-card surprise, and that's absolutely disrespectful to both Ambrose and the fans. Another question for the comment section: who do you think should be Dean Ambrose's first major feud now that he's back? Seth Rollins obviously makes sense given their history, but should they go that route or do something fresh? Let me know your fantasy booking. Now, let's talk about Bron Breakker's performance specifically because despite my issues with the booking, the kid was phenomenal. Every move he hit looked devastating. His intensity was off the charts. When he got in Ambrose's face and they had that nose-to-nose stare down, you could feel the clash of generations, the veteran wild man versus the young hungry predator. That visual alone was worth the price of admission. Breakker's spear on Ambrose was legitimately one of the best spears I've seen all year. He got low, exploded through Ambrose like a linebacker hitting a quarterback, and the impact was nasty. If WWE is smart, and that's a big if, they'll use this segment to elevate Breakker even further. Having him go toe-to-toe with a returning legend and look strong doing it is exactly how you build your next headliner. But here's what worries me: WWE has a terrible track record of following up hot angles with disappointing payoffs. Remember when they had that incredible build between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania? Fantastic. Then they fumbled the aftermath. Or how about every single time they've brought someone back only to have them lose momentum within a month? WWE's attention span is shorter than a goldfish, and I'm genuinely concerned they'll waste this Ambrose return on a throwaway feud. The crowd reaction throughout this entire segment was insane though, and that's not something we can ignore. When Ambrose's music hit, the pop was deafening. People were jumping out of their seats, screaming their lungs out, filming on their phones. That's the kind of genuine, organic reaction that WWE has been desperately trying to manufacture for years. You can't fake that energy. The WWE Universe wanted Dean Ambrose back, and their reaction proved it. Even when Breakker came out, the crowd was hot. Some were booing him for interrupting the Ambrose moment, others were cheering because they love what Bron brings to the table. That split reaction created an atmosphere, that electric feeling that makes wrestling special. If WWE can harness this energy and actually tell a coherent story, we might be witnessing the beginning of something special. Here's what I think is going to happen, and call me cynical, but I've watched WWE long enough to see the patterns. They'll have Ambrose cut a promo next week explaining his return, but it'll be vague corporate-approved nonsense that doesn't really say anything. They'll announce a triple threat match for the next pay-per-view because WWE loves their multi-man matches. Someone will take the pin, probably Rollins, because WWE loves making him look weak despite being a former world champion, and then they'll move on to the next thing without proper resolution. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Triple H and creative have a master plan that justifies this random return. I hope they are building to something at Survivor Series or the Royal Rumble that'll make us all look back at this moment and say, oh, that's why they did it this way. But forgive me if I'm not holding my breath. One more question for you. What was your immediate reaction when Ambrose's music hit? Were you screaming? Were you skeptical? Were you confused? Share your experience in the comments because those genuine fan moments are what make this community special. The wrestling world is buzzing about this return, and whether you loved it or hated it, you can't deny it got people talking. Social media exploded, trending worldwide within minutes. That's the power of Dean Ambrose, that's the power of surprise, and that's the power of nostalgia meeting current storylines. WWE finally did something unpredictable, and even though the execution was flawed, I'll give them credit for taking a swing. My final verdict: the Dean Ambrose return had all the ingredients for a perfect moment: surprise factor, star power, physical intensity, and crowd reaction. But WWE's failure to provide context and their questionable decision to insert Bron Breakker into the mix prevents this from being the legendary return it should have been. It's a solid B- that could have been an A+ with better planning and storytelling. If you made it this far, you're a real one. Make sure you're subscribed to Wrestling Zone 1 because we're going to be covering every development in this story as it unfolds. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any updates. And seriously, get in the comments and let me know your thoughts. Are you excited about Ambrose being back? Are you frustrated with the booking? Do you think this will lead somewhere good, or is WWE going to WWE and waste this opportunity? Your voice matters, so let it be heard. This is Wrestling Zone 1, where we keep it real even when WWE doesn't. I'll see you in the next one.